Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Poz. With me today, very special guest. He is, of course, now the owner and proprietor of the House of Wrestling. He used to be a part of Wrestle Zone and Wrestling Inc., running things over there. He's, of course, Nick Hausman. Nick, welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing?
Thank you for having me, John. I feel like I've been aggregating content from you for years now, and to actually be here knowing that I could have my own words misconstrued by aggregators is really a highlight for me. So thank you for having me, John.
Yeah, isn't that awesome? That's going to happen. I love that. They're like, well, Nick said this and Nick did that, and oh, he hates this person. Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, Paul Heyman's right. I'm already making trouble here, right? Causing problems. Sorry, guys. You know.
You know what's funny about the Heyman thing? I don't even know if you'll remember this or not, but I do. I was working for Jim Ross. God, it was probably about 5 years ago or so. I saw you. We took a picture together. You probably don't remember that, but you
I
were
do.
there.
Was this at the Gotham City whatever
Yes,
event in New York?
yes, for Jim Ross's show, and Heyman was there. So at that point in time, I knew that you knew Heyman or he knew you or whatever. Because when that came up again at the press conference, I was like, man, for some reason he loves busting your balls. Why is that? What is Heyman? Because I remember he pointed out your girlfriend. I guess it's your wife now, but your girlfriend at
Yes.
the time.
Right.
And he said something. I was like, wow. And nobody probably understood it at that press conference. It was like, nope, Heyman kind of has it in for you, likes busting your balls.
I think it's because I don't want to say Paul and I are cut of the same cloth. I think that can I say ass? I think I just did.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to blow any smoke up my ass, but Paul came from the journalism. He was a photographer, right? Photographer turned manager, right? Knows kind of those sides, know what it's like to be
Yep.
that guy doing that hustle, And so he's seen the kind of friendships and respect with people that I've built that he also likes and respects. And so I think, yeah, he likes to mess with me. Whatever. It's fine. I love it, Paul. Hey, mess with me all you like, Paul Heyman. I can keep adding Twitter followers. It'll be great,
Yep.
You know?
I just thought that was so funny because years ago, for some reason, he was saying something to you then. I was like, man, he loves to bust your balls. I don't know why, but he does.
It's I don't know, man. There's that crew. It's like him, Jeff Jarrett, Bill Apter. Like there's the I don't know. I don't want to say Memphis, but the territory guys. Like they like messing with me. It's fine. I like it. I'm okay with it.
And the thing is, too, with that press conference, everyone's like, oh, I can't believe Nick asked a legitimate question. Oh my God. Like, I can't believe he asked a good question. If people at home are like applauding, like, yeah, a real question, instead of like, Rhea Ripley, what did you think of your match? Like something like that, which is fine. But like, we want to know like what you were talking. We want to know stuff. So Heyman, of course, jokingly messed with you. And then he left it to Triple H. And Triple H didn't really give you a good answer either. So I was like, man, what, like a good question doesn't get an answer? That sucks.
I feel like it was kind of an answered question already. Like the reporting was so legitimate, it seemed real.
Yep.
Obviously, it was because 12 hours after I asked them about it, it became real. So I don't. I think it was I think it was a very good question. It was the question of the moment for sure, with everything that was going on. I'm glad that I got to ask it. I do think there was a bit in the Roman Reigns response. It was very minor. I was trying to play with it that night to get people to try to say, no, there's some news here. Because he said something along the lines of, whoever has me, they're all lucky to have me. And he said it in like a collective kind of way that to me said, ooh, I think he already sees himself as an action figure in a couple different playpens right now. So that's how I took it. But whatever, it's a mute point. 12 hours later, the question was answered. It made for great content, though, didn't it?
Yes.
If nothing else,
Yes.
Yeah.
I just thought like even when Brandon Thurston a while ago asked a good question, it's like, how come more of those questions aren't asked at those press conferences? You know what I mean? Like those are the questions I really want to know. The match is fine and like them being a character is fine, but I want to know like the Triple H stuff, like Triple H, what do you think about this with the sale, movement, where are you going to be? What about Vince? Like sometimes they don't want to answer those questions, but this is the perfect time to do it at those press conferences.
If you're gonna I don't think there's anything wrong necessarily with asking a question where they're gonna say something really positive and nice. Like if you say, oh, what was it like working with this person? How does it feel to perform in front of so many people? What's it like to be the first African American or woman or whoever to be in a certain spot? They're gonna say something
Yep.
really positive, right? I like getting people's like thoughts on stories, right? That's kind of my Mad Lib model has always been famous person times relevant thing everyone's talking about equals interest. It's a very, very simple formula, right? And it doesn't work for everyone. I'm not going to sit here and ask Chavo about Tiffany Stratton in NXT, some story about her. It doesn't sync up, right? But you've got Paul Heyman here, who's very entrenched with the upper management of WWE. You got Roman Reigns here, the face of the company, who this is going to affect his life if this happens. These are people who have some skin in this game if this does happen. So that is when you get famous person times thing everyone's talking about equals interest. This is a perfect example of that,
Yep. And I love it, but I just thought Triple H's answer is funny. He's like, "Oh yeah, Nick. Okay, what's your question?" Like, no, I'm not going to answer. It's like, oh come on,
Hey,
Triple H. Yeah.
hey. It was still cool that he allowed me to ask it, first of
Yep.
all. Like,
Yep.
and I think I think it was a little bit of a clinic for anybody who's interested in how to handle the press, especially in a pressured environment like that where you're like in the moment, so many people are watching. Man, the way he just kind of took it, made a joke of it, kind of did a wink and a nod and moved on. That's some artful stuff. I thought he nailed it as far as from a politically savvy perspective. Yeah, so
He'd be awesome as like the crisis manager teacher. You know what I mean? Like, or like stuff like that. Yeah, he's good at that. Very good at that. Not that they were in crisis, but like how to like avoid stuff, bring it up, don't really give it too much, but still acknowledge it.
I mean, look, the first thing this guy did when he got the book was create a faction called Damage Control. Right? He knew the order at hand. He knew the mission at hand. Right? And
Yep.
he's good. He is. He should just join it. He should be the guy in the all female stable. It would
Yeah.
be all right.
How do you grade him so far on booking? I know Vince is, redlining stuff or, remotely sending stuff in, but how would you grade him so far as like the content creator, the booker?
I think he's doing great. I largely enjoy WWE TV these days. I mean, there's some stuff here and there. Oh, why doesn't Mustafa Ali get a consistent push? Whatever. You can get into the weeds, but I think that the Cody stuff, when he hasn't been injured, obviously has been very, very good. I didn't have an issue with the main event of WrestleMania. I mean, look, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, man, the last 9 months that guy had, right, under Paul. I think he's been doing great, and the ratings would reflect that. The sales, the sponsorship deals they're making, everything points to them doing a fairly good job under Paul, I think.
I was just very nicely, but I was just talking to Vince Russo arguing about it. He was saying,
Oh,
"Oh, it's the
God.
same." Yeah, I know you, you guys don't like each other, but he's like, "Oh, it's the same show under Vince and Triple H." I said, "No, the level of importance of Cody, Zayn, even Riddle, Solo Sikoa, all these guys is so much higher than Vince. Vince has everybody at the even 50-50 thing. These guys just seem so much more important with Triple H.
Right.
Even the title belts, like Gunther and the Intercontinental title. If this was a Vince run show, he'd be like a laughing stock doing jokey stuff, and the IC title would be flip flop. He's actually, and Austin Theory with the US title, same thing. It feels important, and it doesn't feel like a secondary title. It kind of feels like, okay, this is a big deal, like it used to feel back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I didn't have an issue with the Roman win. Okay, this guy can beat everybody. He's unstoppable. It builds him up. I don't really know. I think if they'd have done the match with The Rock by now, I don't think this reign would have gone as long. I continue to believe they're going to just keep going 1 year at a time, hoping to be able to make that match happen, hopefully for their title, to elevate the title, the first $1 billion box office WWE attraction. I have to believe that is the end goal here for them with this. I don't know why else they would do it.
Could it be WrestleMania 40 or not sure?
I would have 40, nice round number, right? Certainly sounds out a little bit better than 39, especially the way I said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, or SummerSlam, Detroit. It's the place Hogan and The Rock, or Hogan and Andre threw down.
Yep.
Look, wherever Dwayne wants to do it, I think they would be very open to it.
It's funny when you look at it with that. Everyone was saying that it was supposed to be this year, blah, blah. But if you listen to what everybody was saying, even Bruce Pritchard acknowledged, he said, no, it was Cody Rhodes was the plan from last July going forward that he was going to be basically, right? I mean, that was like, it was always Cody Reigns for 39.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. If, were they going to do it earlier? I'm not. I'm not really sure. And that now they're all just saying it was always the plan. People say things. Um, but yeah, I kind of. I don't know, man. There was so much stuff going around the Rock, and if the Rock wanted to pick up the phone, would be like, all right, hey, let's pull the trigger on this. I think that would have just happened, and the Cody thing would have been secondary to it. That is I believe that's the primary goal here for them to get to that.
Would be perfect if you look at it. Like, let's just say you have all the Samoans, right? What side are they on? Even Rikishi, Samu, all those guys. Like, The Rock is their cousin too. Like, what isn't he the tribal chief? Isn't he the most successful member of the family? Like, it would be so awesome, so easy. Alpha and Sika, they Chris and Roman, but they love The Rock. Like, it would be so perfect.
Well, and Trinity Fatu is doing nothing right now, and
Yeah.
I think it
Yep.
would be a huge tragedy if we never got to see her lift a finger, be part of the bloodline. She would add so much, married to Jimmy,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yep.
and would add so much to the dynamic there. It could really string things out for a while longer, I think, and keep it interesting. So I would love to see her in the mix.
When you look at Roman in this title run in this modern era, like Triple H says, in the modern era here, it's like the longest, obviously by far. When you look at it, is it crazy with the attention span of people that he's actually kind of going an upward trajectory with ratings and money and everything? Are you surprised by that?
No, this guy gets the business. Hunter unabashedly has always talked about how he wanted to be in the room where decisions are made to learn that side of the business, right? You throw in Nick Khan, who has got a real savvy business sense, obviously, and can make those bigger deals and make some calls where he doesn't come across as a wrestling guy, obviously, like Hunter does. So I think I think they got a good combo there. I'm like everyone else. I'm not thrilled Vince is back. I don't know what Vince adds to this equation other than headaches. It's a little wild, but we are where we are.
It's crazy. It's going to come up on 1,000 days for Roman Reigns. I mean, they're really pumping this up. I mean, we haven't seen this since Hogan. He's the last 1,000 day champion. 1,474 days for Hogan. Even before that, Backlund. If I mean, I kind of get too obsessed with the history of the WWE, but really Inoki was champion, so Backlund is two different reigns. But whatever. He at 2,000. I mean, is it possible we're going to get a Backlund or Bruno S 2,800 day reign
I,
from him?
I,
Was that nuts?
I mean, look, Reigns said at WrestleMania they're at the bottom of the third, right?
Right.
So if you do the math, that is 9 innings in a game, unless they go extra innings, would be like 3,000 days. And, I'll take it at his word that that is a possibility.
Reigns, obviously, first $1 billion champion, technically speaking. I mean, people could say, oh, inflation or whatever, but technically speaking, he's the first $1 billion champion. John Cena is calling him the GOAT. Everybody could see YouTube numbers and everything else. He's a huge draw. What do you think of the tribal chief, just in general? Like, what do you think? Like, where do you put him in the pantheon?
I mean, look, I if the match with The Rock never happens, that's when I think you can start to really start to make cases goat wise, right? I think it's really difficult to outposition what Dwayne The Rock Johnson has become and is, right? The guy is a entity, he's a business. He's not just a businessman, he's a businessman, right, JC?
Right.
So I think Dwayne, I still think Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? But they've just had more time, right? They had these careers and now they have legacies and they've done other things and they've grown outside the business. And within the business, I guess there's definitely a case, but overall, like impact wise, I still think there's some time. It needs some time to play out here before you start putting him ahead of some people with arguably larger footprints.
Yeah, people are going a little crazy. I mean, Cena's being very complimentary because Roman Reigns is the guy right now, obviously, but Austin, Hogan, Rock, it's going to be tough. Even Bruno. I mean, obviously he wasn't the global star, but it's going to be tough to beat some of those records and kind of touch that legacy of those guys. I mean, it's nuts.
Yeah, and I still think we haven't seen the best of Roman Reigns. I'm interested to see what happens when he does lose this title. I don't believe that when he loses this title, he's going to just fade away. I think we're going to see a very aggressive side of Roman. I don't know. Like the guy's going to want his belt back. Maybe he does a full face turn, and makes a ton of money. That I don't really know. But I see this other chapter for him beyond the title that's really, I think, going to show us the essence of what Roman is. We're still kind of weeding through that here with this long title reign that he has.
Saw a picture online. Obviously, somebody put it together. So funny. So Roman's got the 2 belts, and he's got the brand new belt around his waist. So they're saying he's going to be three champions. Do you like the new belt? Do you not like it? Do you like the situation? Because it's weird. The way Triple H explained it, I'm kind of confused. It's almost like there's 3 world champions because he said he still has the 2 belts, and here's my 3rd belt. Right? Am I confused on that, or did he not
I think
explain
he's
that?
just taking the Universal title to SmackDown. So I think, or wherever he goes. So I think he's just going to have the one. And I think they're wrestling the world title away. I'm not entirely sure. Like, this is one of those stories where, like, if I was a kid watching this, I would accept it fully at face value, right?
Right.
Like,
yes. Same thing. Yeah.
Fine, right? I wouldn't question it. As an adult watching a program geared towards those children, there's certainly some questionable means here, right? I think there would have been a better way to get that title away from Roman that isn't this. Whoever holds it is going to look secondary to Roman. Or, I mean, unquestionably. I would have done a triple threat where you had one guy pin another guy that's not Roman, and Roman doesn't, need to suffer a loss here by pin or submission, but you can get that belt away in a different way, in a way that would make him very angry, which I, again, want to see, So I don't like the way it, kind of meh, like everybody else on it.
Didn't like the way they did it in '02, but it was a heat magnet for Triple H, and he brought back the big gold. Didn't like it then, and I don't like it now. It just feels like, okay, whoever that guy is, he's second fiddle to Roman Reigns because Reigns never lost a title, and he was dominating for 1,000 days. So to me, I don't know. That was a swing and a miss. That was like the first time I was like, man, is he swinging and missing here on something? Triple H just seems like it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That something. I guess here's what I, as an adult, as a journalist looking at it, I just go, these people got TV shows to sell, right? They're going back into TV rights negotiations. You got to have a center big elephant at one circus if it's SmackDown. You got to have a big elephant at the other circus if it's Raw. You got to call him your world champion as a way to sell this product to ESPN or Fox or NBC Universal or whoever is going to carry Raw and or SmackDown. And for that reason, because you're going out, you're going to be shopping your wares to people that aren't watching Raw every week. They just need to know there's a champion on Raw. That's it. Who is it? Who's going to be the guy? Who's or who's going to be the central focus there? That's all this is. That's all I see it as.
It's a good point. Yeah, because like whoever is a part of Raw, if you own Raw, technically it's like who's our champion? Who's like the flag bearer? So they're going to have one, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
exactly.
makes sense. Yep.
And Roman's like, I'm not doing double duty forever. No way. No
he's on that,
way.
He's on that Hogan Lesnar schedule. It's like, brother, come on. I'm not working that. You get out of here. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. You hear what they do out in Puerto Rico, man? I'm not going there. I'm not going to take a shower after the match. Sorry. It's dark.
That is funny. He's not on that show. And that's a huge show. I mean, Bad Bunny is a big part of it. Lesnar and Cody are on it. But it's funny. He's not on that show. It's crazy. I was like, wow, he's not on a big pay-per-view, WrestleMania Backlash.
He was working really hard, Mania season. I don't blame these guys for getting time off when they can. Look, you got Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico, you're gonna be fine.
It's sold out. It's sold out already. Yeah.
Yep. Roman doesn't need to be there. He can wait till the UK, wait till Money in the Bank.
Do you like the actual physical title though? Do you like the way it looks?
I think it's beautiful. I mean, all the belts are usually, I think, very nice, especially these days. They don't do like cartoony toy type belts anymore. They're always usually very, very pretty. So I thought this one I think it looks great.
I know somebody that owns the big gold belt was kind of putting it out there like it kind of looks like a ripoff of the big gold belt, but with the WWE side, which I guess, I mean, that's probably what they wanted it. I mean, to have that nice, fancy, old school kind of look to it.
Oh, well, yeah, and that's Hunter, right?
Yep.
He loves that. He loves that style. That's for sure.
With like them doing that, right? So it's like, all right, like I don't know about that. Who's in like the match? I mean, or the tournament or whatever. Have they said anything about like how that title will be crowned?
No, I don't think so. It's I would imagine the Brock Lesnar Cody Rhodes match is definitely going to have some weight. Cody Rhodes would seemingly be the person to win that title, right? In kind of a lackluster way, but whatever. No idea how they're going to decide who holds this belt.
Wonder if it would be like Rollins defeats Omos, Cody somehow gets over Lesnar, then Cody Rollins again, the fourth match. I mean, that would be interesting. That would be, pay-per-view worthy, if you will.
Sure, and it's in Saudi Arabia. It is. Is it weird that the American Nightmare could win the WWE Championship in Saudi Arabia? It just feels weird to say that out loud. I don't know.
What's the lineage like at that time? Will it go to all the WWE champions? Like when you try to connect the titles, does it go back to the WWE championship, or are we starting anew and it starts at zero? Like whoever wins this is the first champion.
I think they're just treating it like the world title. I think Roman will have the Universal, and then they will say was stripped of world title at day XX and X, and now the world title lineage begins with whoever takes the belt. That's how I look at it.
Interesting. I want to talk about this too because it's so funny. It's like press conferences. You always come up. Got to mention because he was backstage at Raw. CM Punk.
Sure.
So it's one of those things where it's like, what the hell is CM Punk doing at Raw? Like, do you have any idea? I know it's in Chicago,
Right.
your home base. Like, what was he doing there?
Sounds like he's hanging out until they asked him to leave. I mean, I've read all the reports. I think Fightful said some friends invited him backstage. I don't know. I think I would guess he still has his condo here in Chicago. I hear he has a house out in LA too now. So maybe he just wanted to shake some people's hands, say some things to their face, make amends. Let's be real here. Like I did that interview with Seth Rollins where Rollins called him a cancer, right? Maybe the guy was just making sure he wasn't, he's like, look, guys, I'm dealing with this situation over there. I may not even ever work here again, but I just want to bury some hatchets while I can, man. I just need a graveyard of hatchets these days. Maybe he's just there to say some nice things. It sounds like AEW is not worried about him leaping. Based on what I've heard, I wasn't thinking he was imminently going to be jumping to WWE or anything like that. Maybe, yeah. I mean, maybe he just wanted to do something nice. It blew up like it looks on the surface like something to just create noise. But maybe he was just being genuine. Maybe he had some people he wanted to see. I'm not really sure.
Very interesting. Just because it's like shocking because if the rumors are true, he was talking to the Miz and Triple H.
Right.
Two guys that you would think be the last guys on his list that he would ever talk to. So talk about mending fences and stuff. I mean, that's number one, number two, mending fences.
Well, but I think Hunter and Punk had already mended their fences. I believe when Punk was doing the Fox backstage show.
Oh, right. Okay.
I believe there were reports that Punk and Hunter had like shared space and words on set. And I was always under the impression that Punk entertained offers from AEW and WWE before making the choice to go with AEW. So, if it was just professional, I talked to Matt Kuhn earlier today about it. Obviously Dax Harwood's been involved in all this stuff. And
yep,
he was like, if Hunter didn't know Punk was going to be there, he probably walked over and said, hey, how are your kids? Great, man. Well, good to see you. Sounds like you're doing well. I got to go. Off he went. And that's usually how Hunter is. He's by the book. You're here? Sure. You drove the tank up to the show. We're going to let you in, buddy. Yeah, good to see you. All right, you can leave now.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
what this was. Sounds like.
That's the one thing with Triple H that it just fascinates me. He doesn't care if like the person kind of like rips him apart or says something. Like for years, Warrior would badmouth him. Then he's like, "Hey, Warrior, do you want to be in the WWE Hall of Fame? I'm not really talking to your father-in-law. Well, let's get you guys talking." Bruno Sammartino, the same thing. I interviewed Bruno years ago, and he was saying that Triple H is the reason he went to Hall of Fame because he was the one that connected him to Vince. He's like the unifier. Like Cody Rhodes, was bad mouthing him with the axe, and he laughed about it. He did, like he's one of those guys. I don't know. He's just more of like a unifier, and he almost doesn't care. Oh, you said something bad about me? It's just business, pal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gets that from Vince. I think it started there, but I think that he's also, I like to call it the lazy river style, where you're just the river's going to take you where it's going to go. You don't need to really fight it. You just need to learn to lay back and enjoy it to the best of your ability, even if people are splashing chlorine in your eyes. And that's what this is for him. He's got so much money. He's got a beautiful wife. He's got beautiful kids, big house. He's of an age now where he's past 50. There's really no reason to hold grudges. had a heart attack, right? Or cardiac arrest. They're definitely telling him, dude, don't get yourself worked up. And he's like, cool, I have to go talk to Vince McMahon in 20 minutes or he's going to throw coffee at me. So I think I'll be interested to see how much longer he can keep it up. It's got to be exhausting. He just got a $5 million payday or whatever it sounds like, or he's going to get one for closing this deal. I think when this deal finally closes, everybody gets their paydays. We might see some people jet set off to a private island or something for a while. I don't know how much long. I mean, look, when he had full control, I think it was largely fine, but Vince's, man, it's different. It's different when Vince is around. And I have to believe there's nobody that Vince is harder on than Hunter.
Yeah, yep, true. It's just so interesting with Triple H, like with Punk, like he'd just be like, "All right, it's business. Let's bring it or think about bringing it back." Just crazy. Not that we know if Punk's, or maybe if Punk's contract is coming up soon. I don't know.
I don't know. But all I know is I have not gotten the impression in recent weeks that Punk was leaving AEW. It from everything I heard, it looked and felt as if attempts were being made in earnest to try to work something out. And I think that's still where we're at. And I again, there was so much chaos around CM Punk backstage at WWE last night. And I know there's like a million choose your own adventures you could go through. I did a couple of them earlier today. I had kind of convinced myself that this was some kind of, power play to send a message to maybe Tony and AEW, considering the circumstances in the past few hours. I've since kind of had a change in attitude. It could be nothing. Could just be he was invited, felt like it was a good chance to, again, like if you're being told, we don't like you, we don't want you around, you've got a bad reputation, and it starts to really hurt your head, maybe you do just want to go around and shake some hands and hand out some hugs and just be like, hey, we're not going to do any business anytime soon. I don't really care, but I love you and I appreciate you and I don't want to heat with you. And you do that with as many people as you can until Jim Kelly, the head of security, comes along and asks you to leave. I guess that's how it goes. I don't know. That's just
right.
Just what I hear.
You almost sound like Phil Hartman doing the improv sketch on Saturday Night Live. This is something. This is nothing. This is something. This is nothing. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. God, you compared me to Phil Hartman. That's like the nicest compliment I've ever gotten in an interview. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah. He was the best. The best.
He was.
With you and Punk though, what's any relationship still, or no? There was nothing there with you and Punker.
I mean, look, the guy used to come to my improv shows. That's obvious, right? He used to come hang out with me. And Scott, and it was great. I had a great time with Punk. Then kind of have falling out with Cabana. Didn't hear from Punk after that. We shared space at the trial. He gave me, while the jury was in the other room, he had some like candy at the trial and on his table. And he turned around, he goes, does anybody want some candy? I said, I would love some candy. Because if CM Punk offers you candy, you take it. And so he gave me some candy. And I remember I wrote about it. I was like, yeah, at this point there was deliberating, Punk gave me candy. This is a true story. I don't know that I've ever said this. So Punk, I guess, I don't remember. I think Punk told me in the hallway or something. He's like, dude, you almost got us in so much trouble. Like, I'm not supposed to engage the gallery. And the fact you wrote that I gave you, the press, candy resulted in the judge, like, reprimanding us and threatening and saying if something like this happened again, they would declare a mistrial and we would have to start this whole process all over again. And I was like, whoa. Oh my God, I am so sorry I wrote about the candy. So anyway, no mistrial. They won, gave me interviews afterwards. Scott said something nice about me on his podcast, which surprised me considering our falling out. And then, yeah, I didn't hear from Punk again. Fast forward to the media scrum, everything played out. He obviously had the wrong idea about Scott and I's relationship. The next morning I rolled over in bed. I've told this story. Next morning I rolled over in bed. He had shot me a text saying, dude, I didn't know all the facts. I apologize. I hope we're cool. And I was like, dude, Punk, we're fine. I totally get it, man. I'm sorry to see you so spun up, man. You have always been cool to me. And that's been it. Like, we're fine. I have no issues with Punk. I think it's interesting that he was in a headspace almost instantly of wanting to try to resolve a interpersonal issue. So, I know it got physical in that room, and it sounds like, if this thing went on 8 minutes, it got pretty effing physical. But I know that he's capable of burying the hatchet. He did it with me, and it sounds like he's doing it with others. That's why I'm kind of like looking at this whole situation different. And I'm like, I don't think Punk was trying to. I don't think this was some kind of brilliant chess move. I think that this was just. I think Punk's in a place right now where he does not want to be the bad guy, and that's human. And I think that may be all this is.
That media scrum was crazy because it's almost like he found you, he sought you out, he thought one thing and he obviously was wrong. But if that was in the context of like, okay, it's a storyline, that's an awesome promo. That was awesome. Like that was perfect. Obviously, it was not a storyline. The other guys did not, like it, did not get along with him or did not see eye to eye with him. Hangman, the Elite, Omega. Do you think they could work together again or no?
As it stands, it sounds like it would be not possible. I down the road, things could change if this much talked about meeting with Chris Jericho goes well. I don't anticipate Punk and Jericho like feuding. Could be wrong. But I do think that they could probably be the two big talents on Saturday nights for this new AEW show. You got the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club over on Wednesdays. That's a huge central focus. A lot of people involved. You can tell a lot of stories. Over on Saturday nights, you got CM Punk and Chris Jericho, right? And they could be working with different people and still bring a lot of star power to that show without having to work together. And if that can work out, and if obviously it sounds as if there's some kind of trust between Chris and Omega and the Bucks, maybe you could start to rebuild from there. Maybe. But I'm still out to lunch on whether or not that will happen.
Seems to me you got this huge show, Wembley, right? Punk, Omega. That's the dream match to me, or that's the big match you can make if they can get along. That to me is something that maybe you're not going to sell 80,000 tickets, right? But I mean, that's the huge match to put the company on that you could sell a huge amount of tickets.
Yeah, and look, I think there's rumors Mercedes Moné, right, could be at that show. That's a huge act, right?
Yep.
Jeff Hardy's back. They're going to do this, Hardy compound thing, but they won't have had a real in-ring match yet. Them and the Bucks or them and FTR or some kind of triple threat with all those big names in it. That could be a big draw. And then Punk with anybody, really. Punk Omega would be great. Of the three, I think Omega would probably be the most open to it. But anybody, you could literally, if it's Punk's first match back or one of his first matches back or the culmination of his first feud back, I think you could put him with pretty much anybody and the fans go along for the ride.
Man, it just seems crazy that like, okay, Punk's going to come back. They're going to have a Saturday show. I mean, they got so much going on right now, AEW. It's like, it's crazy.
Man, it is a time. It is the time for Tony Khan to crack the whip and get everybody in line. And to his credit, of everything I've heard about going on right now, for the first time in a while, I really feel like Tony Khan is taking control of his locker room. It's not easy, right? Because I think things fell into real disarray, and it takes a lot of sweeping to clean up that dust, right? But knowing how much is at stake here, I mean, they got this TV rights renegotiation coming up, could get a big pot of money that could change the future of them and pro wrestling. No one should be standing in the way of that happening. So how do we make this work? We need to get everyone healthy. We need to get everyone as on the same page as possible with concessions. And I think Tony, to his credit, is doing that right now. I really do.
Now, just moving away from that part of wrestling for a while, I want to talk about you and what you're up to. Tell us about the House of Wrestling, why the change. I know you were running things at Wrestling Inc., but why the change? And it seems like you're actually busier than ever now because Inside the Ropes is thrown in the mix, too.
Yeah, it was just time to, leave the territory. I'd been, working at a executive management level at Wrestle Zone and Wrestling Inc. for nearly a decade. I mean, it's not quite being an air traffic controller, but you are, you're taking in a lot, okay, every
Yep.
day. You have to be very, very plugged in. And it just felt like it was time to do something different. I had a couple people when it sounded like it sounded like it was time for me to maybe part ways with Wrestling Inc. I had a couple people I was asking, what do you see me doing? What do you think I should be doing? And a couple weeks after the partying had happened, that's when enough people had told me just do your own thing, man. And before we launched, I was able to make a deal with Premier Streaming Network, which is now co-owned by Freddie Prinze Jr. And I do 2 shows a week there, Tuesday, Thursday, noon Eastern. They've been wonderful partners. They've really helped me get House of Wrestling off the ground, help send me to WrestleMania so we could all see that Paul Heyman clip. So thank Premier Streaming Network for that. And then today, just about an hour or so ago, I announced I'll be doing weekly content, weekly video interview content, just like this, for Inside the Ropes. It's for their website, itrwrestling.com, the biggest outlet in the UK for pro wrestling news. I'm a huge ITR fan. When they reached out and we made a deal, I'm not going to lie, I popped a bottle. It was a bucket list thing for me to get to work with them, to get to say I have a UK presence as a kid from a very small town in Texas. That's pretty wild to me. So they'll kind of be floating. I don't know that we have a set day for the interviews each week. I'm going to do one a week, whenever it works out best. And so between that and Premiere, great tent poles. I'm working on another project right now, something else I can roll out there that'll be more houseofwrestling.com exclusive. But that's kind of what's going on, man. It's a multi-tentacled thing, and at the website you can go get editorials, all the news, everything like that. We're doing our best to keep up. Hopefully bringing on some writers very, very shortly.
Very cool. Very awesome. It's almost like, not that you outgrew it, but it's like I'm getting too big for this pair of pants. I gotta stretch out a little bit. I gotta get my own pair of pants. You know what I mean?
Well, and there's new ownership over at Wrestling Inc. and they have
that's true. Yeah.
They have their way of wanting to do things, and look, they are hyper successful. So like, I don't want to say it's just, sometimes it's just, like Cody, like I keep quoting Cody Rhodes. Sometimes just right time to leave the territory. No hard feelings whatsoever. And it's just been great getting to grow and do my own thing. Find out what it is that I really love and enjoy doing in all of this business. And I think I'm finding that right now.
What's your biggest goal for a House of Wrestling? Like, where do you see yourself kind of going with it?
Oh, that's a great question. I definitely want to bring on a team. It's really just me. Ref Marsh, who handles Medusa and John Arezzi's podcast, has been helping me with graphics work. I have a couple buddies that help me on the web stuff and business stuff, help me file my paperwork. I'm an S Corp. So I would like to bring on a team. I want to get a couple writers this year for sure to keep the news flowing over on the site. I want to keep partnering with people that I like, like ITR and Premier Streaming Network, and I want to expand those relationships. I think everybody involved with both those companies is very, very smart and motivated, and I hope we can do a lot more together. And I want to eventually, like I've told everybody for years, I want a studio here in Chicago. I want a place where I can do high-end content, bring people in, welcome into the actual House of Wrestling, have a little mock fireplace. And, if I could get that in the next 2 years, awesome. That would probably be the end game for me.
Why the hell not, right? Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
I'll be 40 in 2 years. That's kind of the cutoff. That's why.
Oh, okay. Milestone, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta have my shit together, John. I'm 40. Ugh.
Tell me about it. I just turned 40. Tell me about it. Oh my god.
Okay. Well, you just turned 40. I'm telling you about it. I'm gonna be 40 here in 2 years.
Yeah. You better get your stuff in order. So 2 years is gonna fly by. You better get that done. Yeah.
Thanks, man. I'm going to. Trying. House of Wrestling.
When you look at it now, like there's a lot of stuff. You go to the website houseofwrestling.com. You go to write. You got a lot of stuff. I mean, that's all you. You're just kind of doing all that stuff yourself.
Yeah, dude. I wake up. It's a full-time job, right? I do interviews like this to promote the site. I do interviews for content for my partners, and I write as much news as I can. Some days, a lot of news. Other days, Nick's busy, less news. I'm sorry. That is why I'm trying to get more writers. It is getting to a point where people are starting to notice the distinct lack of consistency in how often I get out news. But I'm working on it. I promise.
Hey, that happens. It feels like lately though. I mean, there's always something popping up. I don't know if it's me or am I crazy, but it just seems like lately with wrestling, like more and more stuff just keeps popping up, popping up, popping up.
Dude, you have no idea. Or maybe you do. I don't know, John. But the next 2 months, I'd say 3 months. The next 3 months are going to be transformative for the pro wrestling industry. We are going to, in the next 3 months, find out AEW's future with Warner Brothers Discovery. How much money is Warner willing to pay for this content? And can Tony Khan pull it off? Can he get the 2 shows going? Can he get these 2 rosters established? Can he keep harmony and capitalize on the huge, gigantic opportunity I think that is sitting mere weeks away from AEW? There's a lot of news coming there. And on the other side, over in WWE land, we are going to find out how this Endeavor acquisition is going to affect the company as a whole. We hear a lot of releases maybe coming, right? They're going to cut a lot. That's what happens when you have these transform or transition teams come in. So we're going to see a lot of change in WWE, and they're going to be selling their content around. And they're going to get in multiples of whatever AEW gets. But it is worth noting, I had somebody very important, I was texting with them the other day in the industry, and they were stressing to me that nobody is talking about how big of a deal the Endeavor acquisition of WWE is, because it's not just big for WWE. It's a statement about the health of pro wrestling. And if they can take a pro wrestling product, turn it into a $12 billion entity, why can't this guy, and why can't we start acting like that too? And how do we get there? And it is a business that not just affects AEW, but all of pro wrestling gains in value. And you hear about the Attitude Era when there was these indie shows where everybody was making hand over fist in cash, right? I think we're about to re-enter that period, if we're not already kind of in that period, because indie wrestling is pretty healthy as it is. But I think the business is about to go bananas. I think this summer is going to be a huge summer for the industry.
It is funny because King Kong Bunny was my buddy. He said he made more money in '98 than '88 because of like how much money he was doing on the indies. He said two times a night, straight cash.
Legend. I'm friends with all the Chicago indie guys that like lived through that era. Dude, like they talk about it like legendary stuff. You'd show up, your shirts be gone instantly. They did actually, they did some shirts, but there wasn't a whole lot of guys doing much merch at that time, right? They were all just making paydays, right? They were all just getting fat checks from promoters. That's how that was back then. So wild. Multiple shows a day for some of those guys.
Plus, if you look at what's coming up for AEW, they've got Double or Nothing, they've got Forbidden Door, they got Wembley. I mean, they got a bunch of shows, Bing Bang Boom, this summer coming up.
Dude, that's why I say strap in. Strap in. The next couple months are going to be must-watch historical pro wrestling stuff. It's gonna reach such a tenor that you're gonna start to wonder how long it can go, because I really think it's gonna be that hot. I think it's gonna be a big summer for professional wrestling.
Do you think a Bill Goldberg retirement tour is going to be part of that summer?
Oh boy, man, what a thing Bill has done getting in on. See, that's when you know the business is hot. When Goldberg's shooting his own angles, he's like, "I'm gonna get in on this. I'm gonna run my own indie shows. I'm gonna get those fat hand over fist 1998 checks." Yeah, no, look, Bill can do whatever he wants. Will people pay for a Bill Goldberg retirement tour? I think, I think that. Do you remember those Hulk Hogan shows where he ran like Australia, and then he did like
tour? Yep.
Yeah, right. He had like his own independent. I would think Hulk's got a Bischoff maybe, or in Bill's ear. I mean, Eric's already out there being like, "Hey Tony, why don't you do Pug Goldberg or whatever?" I think Bischoff and Hogan are up in Bill's ear. I think they're putting thoughts in his head. I think Hogan sees if they do a Goldberg retirement tour, there could also be a Hulk Hogan fat paycheck tour. With me tagging with Bill or going at odds with Bill. Maybe Eric drives around in a Harley making noise. I don't know, right? But I think there's a group of people that would love for that to happen. And if not, if they want to do MJF Goldberg, I think it'd be great. I think MJF shot his mouth off in a way that probably made Bill Goldberg really want to beat him up with that steroided up Jew comment or whatever he made. He's played out in WWE. They could do do a night, give him the guy a retirement match. That's fine. I don't care. I don't know. A lot of rambling there. Doesn't do a whole lot. If he's gonna do anything, go lose to MJF. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, Tony was like for it. A lot of the fans were like, I don't know if I want him in AEW. Tony Khan basically was saying, yes, he likes Bill Goldberg. He knows Bill Goldberg. He would do it. Yeah.
Why wouldn't he? Right? Bill Goldberg, for better or worse amongst hardcore wrestling fans, pops a rating with casuals. They see him on TV. It's proven. Bill Goldberg shows up in a quarter hour. That quarter hour goes up every time. It's a fact. I don't get it. A lot of people don't. Whatever. It's a fact. And if Tony can get Bill to come in, do a big match at Wembley, help sell those 90,000 tickets, why not? It's going to be a 3-ring circus. You got to put something in every ring.
I always do my father-in-law test. He's 70 years old. He's not a big like sports guy or a big wrestling fan. So it's like, hey, have you ever heard of this guy? Do you know this guy? So I said Hulk Hogan. He's like, are you kidding? Everybody knows who that is. So I said, have you ever heard of Bill Goldberg? He said, of course. You kidding me? And he had it in his DVR, all those car shows and everything else. So he's like, he goes, everybody knows Goldberg. No, it's like, I guess I just want to use you as a test, as a barometer, because he didn't know who John Cena was. And he goes, is that guy in those car movies? So I was like, yeah, well, he's in Fast and the Furious. Like he wasn't sure, but I was like, Goldberg. Said, yes, I know Goldberg. So I always do the casual test on him just to see if Goldberg is mainstream or not, and it worked. He is.
And we go back to that. We were talking about, is Roman Reigns the GOAT or not? And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, there's guys with bigger footprints, I think, that than Roman Reigns. I'm gonna get some heat, but does Goldberg have a bigger footprint than Roman Reigns? Like,
he does. He does. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like your dad there knows him from the TV shows. So I don't know. Something to be said for that.
He didn't know Roman Reigns. Not to say anything, because I love Roman. He is a tribal chief, but he did not know that because he doesn't follow current. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, but Roman doesn't really exist out of pro wrestling. He'll do like a late night talk show, but he's like the equivalent of like the guy with the dancing dog to me. Like, it's just like, ooh, pro wrestlers here. Let's have him take his shirt off.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like, it's not treated with the same heft as when like John Leguizamo shows up, that kind of deal.
Do you think that he needs to start doing movies with The Rock?
I think he tried, right? Like they did that Fast and the Furious thing, or Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh yeah, Hobbs and Shaw. Yeah, that's right. He's a cameo or whatever. Yeah. Yep.
So they tried, right? It doesn't seem like it lit the world on fire. I think that may have been a knock against him. Who knows? I don't know that for certain. I'm just kind of saying, like, they did The Rock and Roman Reigns. Didn't light the world up, to the best of my knowledge. Yeah, I think that Roman branching out, doing more outside the business would definitely do more for him. I would like to see that. Yes.
What do you think of like where there are right now with him, like kind of going forward when he's not on the shows? Do you think that hurts at all? Because it doesn't seem like it affects ratings as much as you would think. Like, like when he's on, I know it gets a little bit of a bump, but when he's not on, does that bother you at all? Like the main guy isn't on a lot of the shows?
No, not really. I think it builds it builds an aura around him, right? When he does show up, it feels more important. At the other side, when he's not around, it opens up space for other people to shine, right? Sami Zayn, perfect example of that. Roman Reigns can't be here every week. We're going to need to find things with our band of misfits here to do while Roman's not around. And Sami Zayn is a great utility player in that regard, where you can give this guy an inch and he'll take a mile, right? And so I don't have an issue with the way Roman's been booked at all. I think he's been booked perfectly.
Now, here's a very important question. You're going to love this. What did you think about Andy Kaufman being inducted to the WWE Hall of Fame? Because I know you are a huge Tony Clifton mark.
Andy Kaufman. Think he's an asshole. I think he's a piece of shit. Does long he's not WWE Hall of Fame. No, I love Andy. I'm big Andy Kaufman. Changed my life. He's over here on my wall. My friend painted me. Let me see if I can turn this without knocking everything over. All right, look at that. Custom painted Andy Kaufman painting on my wall.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, nice.
Andy changed my life. I was a big nerdy kid in the sticks of Texas and was very awkward and bullied. And this weirdo who could seemingly get the better of everyone with his wits and cleverness and deceptiveness and all that was very appealing to me. So I idolized Andy from a very young age, fell into comedy because of Andy, fell into pro wrestling, arguably, because of Andy. And to see him honored and put to the Hall of Fame was really wonderful, well overdue, changed the business. I'm ecstatic about Andy Kaufman in the Hall of Fame.
He's still doing some Tony Clifton stuff on the side.
I don't know what to talk about. Sometimes, I don't know. Give me a call. True story. True story. I believe that someone actually pitched me to be involved with the ceremony, and it did not happen. And
really? As Tony Clifton?
it was. I know that it was at least pitched to someone of note, and
Whoa.
so would have been great. But no, a lot of things happened there. I kind of got a 10,000-foot view of why it fell apart. It was a long shot. I knew it wasn't going to happen, but it would have been cool, wouldn't it? That would have been dope.
Oh, it would have been awesome. I was kind of thinking, it was like Andy would love it if there was some sort of Tony Clifton, like some sort of joke, but maybe his family wouldn't be for it. I don't know.
No, I don't think it was the family. It was Zmuda, right? Zmuda,
Yeah.
I think Zmuda owns the rights to the Tony Clifton character,
Oh.
and he's also an insane human being who is a huge headache to work with. And I think the decision, this is me just kind of not completely informed, but kind of saying how it was relayed to me. I think the family, I think that it was thought that having the family there was enough, and we don't want to have to deal with a potential issue. And Jimmy Hart worked with Andy, so we're just going to keep this tight, and we'll save the wrestling angle for the Mysterios so whatever. So I think for anybody interested in why Tony Clifton was involved, I think there's something to what I just said. I believe.
Okay. With Zmuda, just an interesting point on him. I interviewed him a few years ago. He holds the record for the longest answer I've ever gotten. So I like to just lay out and kind of like listen to the wrestlers, or even, Zmuda, because we were talking about Andy, and this was years ago. He had the book out about Andy and stuff. So it was interesting. 22-minute answer to a question.
Yeah.
Zmuda is, I love the guy, but he's a little crazy, a little out there.
Completely insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
And from what I've gathered, I've never met him. I have begged people that know Bob Zmuda. I'm like, please. I bet Jerry Lawler. I was like, Jerry, please, you love me. I need this. I need his approval. And Jerry's like, nah, you don't want to talk to Bob. Bob's an asshole. You don't want to talk to him. You just keep doing it. You're fine. You're fine. Don't worry about it.
He is nutty. I was like checking. I was like, oh my god! I go 22-minute answer. Oh, it was great because he was talking about Memphis and Jerry and Jimmy Hart and everything, and Andy Kaufman, obviously. But it was just awesome. It's like, holy shit! Like, that's crazy. That long of an answer, my god! But it was great.
By the way, Jerry Lawler is I hear doing better. Obviously, he did the video, and yeah. So for anybody interested, I hear Jerry's doing better these days. He's doing his best. Not 100%. Obviously, I don't know that he ever will be again, but he is doing better. So
nice, very good with the king. But as we start to wind it down here, we'll head towards the finish with you. I know you've been a longtime wrestling fan. What is your just all-time favorite angle, memory, moment, just like something that sticks out above others as far as being just a fan, maybe not even covering the business, maybe just going back as fandom?
Man, WrestleMania last year had two matches that really had me buzzing, and I'll just go to those first because that's what came to mind. First of all, the Jackass match. Oh my God, I had a blast watching that match, and it was just it was the only match I came back, and my wife's a big Jackass fan, and she watched wrestling with me. She watched that match with me, and she loved it. She looked at me and said, "Is this the greatest WrestleMania match of all time?" And I said, "You're goddamn right, it is." So I thought that was really cool. And man, I was in the press box watching Kevin Owens and Steve Austin and doing their promo exchange. And when they just declared it was going to be a match and they started fighting and there was a ref, I swear to God, I became 14 years old. I was transformed to another place. And that was very, very cool. I will point to those two things right now. They were recent, I know, so they're probably front of mind. But man, wow, those were super cool moments.
Do you have like a favorite promotion ever? Is it WWF or like is there a promotion you always were a big fan of?
I mean, I would have to say I was always a WWE WWF kid. I watched WCW. If WCW stayed alive, I'd probably still be watching WCW. But yeah, that's what I came up on. I was always a WWE kid.
How about I know it's different because you're covering the business now, but like is there a wrestler maybe you were a fan of, maybe even as a kid, like your favorite?
Oh, I loved Mick Foley. I unabashedly, I was huge Mick Foley mark as a kid. I had like a binder of articles I printed off the internet and organized, and it was very obsessive. It was weird. I've told Mick about it. He's like, okay. I am a huge Mick Foley fan, and I've befriended him as an adult. He's always very, very nice to me. Said some very nice things about me, and yeah, Mick Foley.
When you look at House of Wrestling and kind of what's going on, just tell us, just a little bit more, sell us on the site, tell us about what you're doing and kind of what you're going to be doing in the future.
Yeah, great. HouseofWrestling.com is the home for all things House of Wrestling. We do try our best to keep up with the daily news, put out some editorials. Working on some stuff this week, certainly on an editorial front. But like I said, we are producing content with our great partners twice a week, Premier Streaming Network, Tuesday, Thursday, noon Eastern, and then available in video archive form over at PremierStreamingNetwork.com. That's the House of Wrestling flagship show. I bring on pundits to talk about news stories, and sometimes they're part of the story, like Matt Kuhn I had on today. Yeah, man, what happened there with FTR? Let's talk about that, and then we'll get into the Punk stuff. And oddly, a fluid conversation, those two things kind of on top of each other. So I like to bring on people that are, part of the story, have them talk a little bit about that. But then, of course, I'm going to be doing the interviews over at Inside the Ropes, itrwrestling.com starting next week. The audio for all of that, the flagship show and the interviews, is available on the House of Wrestling podcast feed. So if you can't catch those shows in video form on Premiere or Inside the Ropes, go subscribe to House of Wrestling podcast feed, and you could get some great audio throughout the week. We are seeing huge gains in the podcast department. So please go subscribe to that. Leave a nice comment. And then we're all on the socials. I'm on social media. Go find us there. That's it.
When you look at it, to me, you not only owe Heyman one, you owe him two. So please keep going to those press conferences. Hopefully, get Paul, get him two zingers. You owe him one for Gotham and one for WrestleMania.
I'm trying to get Paul because he did the loop with Inside the Ropes. Did the tour, and so I've reached out to WWE already. I'm like, hey, let's get the band together here. Have not heard back, so we'll see how that goes. Maybe shouldn't have said that out loud. Oh, well, fine. You can keep it in. It's fine.
Yeah. Come on. It can happen. Come on, WWE. Come on, guys. Yeah, but Nick, thank you so much for all time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, John. It was a pleasure.